Have you ever felt like the world is slowly closing in? Like conversations don't last as long as they used to, invitations become less frequent, and the people you love seem to drift further away? It's not always obvious at first. It starts with small things: a missed phone call, a shorter visit, a little less enthusiasm in someone's voice when they greet you. Then, one day, you realize something painful. You feel invisible. It's one of the most heartbreaking experiences of aging, the sense that despite everything you've given, everything you've done, the world is moving on without you. But here's the truth. This isn't just about them, it's about you too, because sometimes, without realizing it, we develop habits that push people away. Not because we're bad people, not because we don't love them, but because we don't see how. Our words, our actions, and even our attitudes shape the way others respond to us. The good news? This can change. Relationships are not lost overnight. They fade slowly, over time, through patterns that can be reversed if you recognize them. If you want to keep your loved ones close, if you want to remain a part of their lives, if you want to be cherished, respected, and included, then it starts with awareness.so before it's too late. Let's talk about the 6 silent mistakes that might be pushing people away and how to fix them. But before we begin, if you believe that aging should be a time of connection, love, and meaning, then I invite you to subscribe to Graceful Elderly. Share this message so more people can recognize these habits before they lose the people who matter most. Because the goal isn't just to grow older, it's to grow closer to the people we love. 1. The weight of negativity, how it pushes people away. It starts small. A complaint here, a frustration there. The news is always bad. The world isn't what it used to be. Young people don't have manners. Prices are too high. Health isn't what it used to be, and all of it may be true, but truth alone doesn't build relationships. The problem isn't that you have frustrations. It's that constant negativity changes the way people feel around you. Imagine this. You visit a friend, excited to share something good. But the moment you sit down, the conversation turns heavy. Complaints about politics, frustrations about aches and pains, disapproval of how the younger generation lives their lives. You nod, you listen. But after an hour, you leave feeling exhausted. Now, ask yourself, would you rush back for another visit? This is why people pull away. Not because they don't care, but because they don't want to feel worse after spending time with you. So, how do you fix it? You don't have to ignore your struggles. You don't have to pretend everything is perfect. But balance is key. For every complaint, share something good. A story, a memory, a simple expression of gratitude. If you find yourself leading with frustration, pause and shift the conversation. Because when people leave an interaction with you feeling uplifted, they will want to come back. Negativity repels. Warmth attracts. Choose the latter. 2. The unwanted advice, when good intentions feel like criticism. You've lived long enough to see the patterns. You've watched people make mistakes, and you know exactly where their choices will lead. Naturally, you want to help. So you offer advice. Don't waste your money on that. You should really be eating healthier. If I were you, I wouldn't raise my kids that way. It comes from love. But it doesn't feel like love. It feels like judgment. The truth is, people rarely listen to advice they didn't ask for. And when every conversation feels like a correction, they stop having conversations at all. No one wants to feel controlled. Not your children, not your grandchildren, not your friends. So how do you fix it? Ask before advising, instead of saying, you shouldn't eat that. Try, would you like some tips I've learned about nutrition? If they say yes, share with love. If they say no, let it go And if you feel the urge to correct someone, pause and ask yourself, am I offering help or am I offering control? People don't avoid advice because they don't care. They avoid it because they don't want to feel judged. When you give guidance in a way that respects their choices, you become a trusted voice, not a source of frustration. 3. Resisting change. The fastest way to be left behind. The world is different now. Technology, culture, communication, it's all changing faster than ever. And while it's tempting to dismiss these changes as unnecessary or foolish, doing so has a cost, because when you refuse to adapt, you make it harder for people to include you. Maybe your grandchildren prefer texting over phone calls. Maybe your friends are using social media to plan gatherings. Maybe your family is embracing new traditions that don't look like the ones you grew up with. It's easy to say, that's stupid, or things were better in my day, but every time you do, you create distance. So how do you fix it? You don't have to love every new trend. You don't have to change who you are. But a simple willingness to stay curious makes all the difference. Instead of saying, I don't get it, try, tell me more about it. Instead of dismissing technology, ask for help learning it. Instead of resisting new traditions, find ways to participate in them. The past is important, but relationships live in the present. Stay open, stay engaged, and the people in your life will want to bring you along for the journey. 4. Expecting more than you give. The hidden reason people pull away, and of the biggest mistakes people make as they age is assuming that relationships should be one-sided. That family should always visit first, that friends should always call first, that younger people should always make the effort. But relationships don't work that way. Love isn't owed. It's nurtured. If you expect constant attention without offering appreciation in return, people will start to feel obligated rather than excited to be around you. So how do you fix it? Start with gratitude. A simple thank you when someone calls. A message to check in on them rather than waiting for them to check in on you. A small gesture to show that you care too, because the truth is, people want to be around those who make them feel valued. Aging doesn't mean losing relationships. But sometimes, without realizing it, we build walls where we should be building bridges. The good news: you can change this. You can make sure that the people in your life don't drift away, not because they don't love you, but because you've created a space where love thrives, and it starts with you. If this message resonates with you, if you want to stay connected, respected, and cherished, subscribe to Graceful Elderly and share this with someone who needs to hear it, because aging isn't about becoming invisible. It's about becoming someone people want to be around, and that is a choice you can make starting today. Aging is a journey filled with wisdom, experiences, and stories worth sharing. But sometimes, without realizing it, we adopt behaviors that create distance between us and the people we love. It's not intentional. It's not because we don't care. But small habits, repeated over time, can turn into invisible walls, barriers that separate us from the warmth of companionship, the joy of laughter, and the simple comfort of feeling truly connected. The good news is that these barriers are not permanent. They can be broken down, one thoughtful step at a time. Because the truth is, people don't pull away because they stop loving you. They pull away because they stop feeling good around you. Let's talk about the subtle habits that create emotional distance and how to replace them with something better, something that brings people closer instead of pushing them away. 1. The fine line between guidance and control. There is a deep desire that comes with age, a desire to share, to protect, to make sure that the people we love don't make the same mistakes we did. Decades of experiences have shaped the way we see the world, and when we notice younger generations doing things differently, spending money recklessly, parenting in ways we don't agree with, ignoring the values we held dear. It's natural to want to correct them, but there's a problem. Even the best advice, when given at the wrong time or in the wrong way, can feel like control. And people resist control, even when it comes from a place of love. Think about how it feels when someone tells you what to do, especially when you didn't ask for their opinion. It doesn't matter if they're right. It doesn't matter if their advice would actually help. It still stings. It still feels like a challenge to your independence. That's exactly how younger generations feel when every conversation turns into a lesson, a correction, or a warning. So, what's the solution? It's simple: wait until you're asked. People who want advice will ask for it. And when they do, they'll be ready to hear it. Until then, the best thing you can do is listen. Not to respond, not to fix, but just to understand. If you feel the urge to correct someone, pause and ask yourself, am I offering this advice because they need it, or because I feel the need to be heard? A gentle question, would you like my perspective on that? Gives them the choice. And if they say no, respect that choice. Because when people feel respected, they come to you when they're ready, and when that happens, your wisdom will finally have the impact it was always meant to have. 2. The subtle danger of living in the past memories are powerful. They remind us of love, of laughter, of lessons learned. But sometimes, without realizing it, the past becomes more than just something we remember. It becomes something we cling to so tightly that it stops us from living in the present. T starts innocently. Enough. A story repeated one too many times. A comparison between the way things were and the way things are now. A conversation that always circles back to the good old days, but over time, something happens. People, especially younger generations, start to feel like they can't connect with you in the present because your heart and mind are still somewhere else. They start hesitating before sharing their own experiences because they know the response will be, that's nothing compared to what we went through. The past matters, but it should never overshadow the present. If you find yourself talking more about yesterday than today, it's time to shift. Instead of saying, back in my day, things were better, try asking, what do you love most about the way things are now? Instead of repeating the same story, try creating a new one. A new experience, a new memory, a new reason for people to look forward to spending time with you. The people in your life want to connect with you, not just with the version of you that lived 50 years ago. Be here now, because the best moments of life don't just exist in the past. They are still waiting to be made. 3. The silent walls we build by expecting too much love is not about obligation. It is not about keeping score. It is not about who calls first, who visits most, or who puts in the most effort. Yet, it's easy to fall into the trap of feeling entitled to someone's time. As we age, it becomes harder to do things on our own. We need help. We need companionship. And it's only natural to look to family and friends for support. But when we start expecting more than we give, when we assume that others should visit, should call, should drop everything to be there for us, we create an unspoken pressure that makes people pull away. Nobody wants to feel like they are only valued for what they do, rather than for who they are. So, how do we change this? We start by shifting from expectation to appreciation. A simple thank you for a visit. A message just to say, I was thinking of you. A gesture that shows love without demanding anything in return. And perhaps most importantly, we take the initiative. Instead of waiting for someone to reach out, we reach out first. Instead of assuming people will visit, we invite them with warmth, not guilt. People are drawn to relationships that feel light, joyful, and mutual. If being around you feels like an obligation, they will start finding reasons not to be. But if being around you feels like a gift, they will seek you out for The need to respect personal boundaries as relationships evolve. So do personal boundaries. Adult children have families of their own. Friends have their own struggles. Younger generations have their own way of handling emotions and privacy. But one of the biggest mistakes people make as they age is assuming that their presence, their calls, their opinions, and their needs should always take priority. Maybe it's expecting an immediate answer to every phone call. Maybe it's dropping by unannounced, assuming they'll be happy to see you. Maybe it's pushing too hard for details about their personal life, their choices, or their struggles. It may seem small. But when people feel like their personal space isn't respected, they start stepping back. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to set boundaries without hurting your feelings. The solution. Pay attention to the signals people give you. If someone seems hesitant to talk, give them space. If they set a boundary, respect it without taking it personally. If they don't answer right away, trust that they will when they can. Strong relationships are built on mutual respect. The more you honor someone's space, the safer they feel coming back to you, bridging the distance before it's too late. People don't walk away because they don't care. They walk away because they feel unheard, unappreciated, or unseen in the present. But it's never too late to change. A small shift in how we listen, how we offer advice, how we talk about the past, and how we approach relationships can transform everything, because at the end of the day, people want to be around those who make them feel good, valued, and at ease, and that is something you can become starting now. There is a quiet kind of loneliness that comes with aging. It isn't always about being physically alone. It's about feeling unseen, unheard, or slowly left behind. Relationships that once felt effortless begin to feel distant. Conversations that used to flow naturally now feel strained. And the most painful part, it's not always clear why, but here's the truth. Distance doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small ways, through the way we speak, the way we listen, the way we show up in the lives of others. And the good news? Just as distance is created through small habits, it can be repaired the same way. The people in your life don't want to pull away. They want to feel close. They want to laugh, to share, to enjoy time together. But to make that happen, we have to be aware of the things that create emotional barriers and learn how to break them down. 1. The art of listening. How to make people feel truly heard. One of the most overlooked reasons relationships fade isn't because of arguments or disagreements. It's because of the lack of feeling heard. Have you ever shared something with someone only to realize they weren't really listening? Maybe they were waiting for their turn to talk. Maybe they interrupted. Maybe they brushed off what you said and turned the conversation back to themselves. How did that feel? Now ask yourself, have I ever done the same? It's easy to assume that because we love someone, they know we care. But love alone isn't always enough. People need to feel heard, to feel like what they say matters, to feel like they are more than just an audience for our thoughts. So how do we fix this? Be fully present. When someone speaks, resist the urge to jump in with a response. Listen not just to reply, but to understand. Ask questions. Show curiosity about what they are saying. Instead of shifting the conversation back to your own experiences, explore theirs. Let silence exist. Sometimes the best way to show someone you care is to simply let their words settle before responding. When people feel heard, they feel valued. And when they feel valued, they want to be around you, too. Letting go of the need to be right there is a kind of power that comes with age, the power of experience, of wisdom, of having lived through decades of lessons. But sometimes this power becomes a burden, because the more we believe we know, the harder it becomes to listen with an open heart. Maybe you know that someone is making a mistake. Maybe you're convinced that your way is better. Maybe you see life through a lens that tells you, if only they would listen to me, things would be easier. But the reality is, people don't always want to be taught. They want to be understood. When conversations turn into debates, when every discussion becomes a battle of who is right and who is wrong, people start to pull away, not because they don't respect your wisdom, but because they don't want to feel overpowered. So how do we fix this? Ask yourself, is being right more important than being close? Instead of correcting, try understanding. Instead of saying, that's not how things should be done, try saying, that's interesting, tell me more about why you see it that way. Let go of the need to win. Not every conversation has to end in agreement. Sometimes the best connection comes from simply sharing space and accepting each other's differences, because at the end of the day, being right means nothing if it costs you closeness with the people you love. 3. Replacing nostalgia with curiosity. Memories are beautiful. They remind us of where we've been, of the people we've loved, of the lessons we've learned. But when nostalgia becomes the foundation of every conversation, something unintended happens. We stop being present in today. Younger generations want to hear about your past, but not all the time. They want to know your stories, but they also want to share their own. When every conversation turns into back in my day or things used to be better, people start to feel like there's no room for them in the conversation. They begin to feel that their own experiences, their own struggles, and their own joys aren't as valid because they didn't happen the way things used to be. So how do we fix this? Balance the past with the present. For every memory you share, take a moment to ask about theirs. Instead of saying, things were better in my time, try saying, I remember when I went through something similar. What's it like for you now? Show interest in their world. Ask about the things they care about, even if they seem unfamiliar to you. Music, technology, new ways of thinking. When you show curiosity instead of criticism, you build bridges instead of walls. Create new memories. Instead of only reliving the past, look for ways to create new moments together. A shared experience, no matter how small, is more powerful than any story about yesterday, because the truth is, people don't connect with the past, they connect with who you are today. 4. The importance of gratitude in relationships. Fewer things push people away faster than feeling unappreciated. It's easy to assume that people know we love them, that they know we value them, that they know their presence in our lives matters. But assumptions are dangerous, because when people don't feel recognized, when their efforts go unnoticed, when their presence feels expected rather than cherished, they start to withdraw. So how do we fix this? Say thank you, not just for big things, but for small things. A phone call, a visit, a moment of their time. Gratitude is a reminder that their efforts don't go unnoticed. Acknowledge people's struggles instead of expecting them to always be there. Recognize that they too have busy lives, worries, and hardships. A simple, I know you have a lot going on, and I appreciate you making time for me, goes a long way. Give as much as you receive. Love is a two-way street. Instead of only waiting for others to reach out, take the first step. A thoughtful message, a small gesture, a moment of kindness. These things create relationships that feel mutual rather than one-sided, because when people feel appreciated, they want to stay close. They want to invest in the relationship. They want to be there not out of obligation, but out of love, bringing people closer one small change at a time. Distance in relationships isn't about one big mistake. It's about small patterns repeated over time that slowly create space where there should be closeness. But the most beautiful thing about relationships They can be healed with better listening, with more curiosity, with gratitude, with understanding. People don't want to pull away. They don't want to stop calling, visiting, sharing their lives with you. They just need to feel heard. They need to feel valued. They need to feel like the relationship is not just about the past, but about the present. And when that happens, something incredible follows. The phone rings more often. The visits last a little longer. The conversations flow with ease because when people feel good around you, they want to be around you, and that is a gift that no amount of years can ever take away. Aging does not have to mean isolation. It does not have to mean fewer visits, shorter conversations, or growing apart from the people you love. The quiet distance that settles between family, friends, and even long-time relationships is not inevitable. It is often the result of patterns we don't even realize we've fallen into, patterns that make people feel unheard, unseen, or unappreciated. But here is the most important truth. It is never too late to change. The people in your life still care. They still want to be close to you. They still want to laugh, to share, to enjoy your company. But sometimes they need a signal, a small shift, an open door, a reason to step forward instead of stepping away. The relationships that matter most are not lost overnight, and they are not rebuilt overnight either. But small changes, consistent, intentional, heartfelt, can transform the way people feel in your presence. And when people feel good around you, they want to stay around you. Let's talk about the final steps to ensuring that your later years are filled not with loneliness, but with love. 1. Knowing when to let go, releasing what no longer serves you. Holding on to resentment, past conflicts, or disappointments is one of the fastest ways to create distance in relationships. You may not even realize you're doing it. Maybe it's an old grudge with a family member. Maybe it's a lingering frustration about how often someone calls or visits. Maybe it's disappointment over how things used to be versus how they are now. But here's the hard truth. People can feel when you're holding something against them. And no one enjoys being around someone who is constantly bringing up old wounds, even in subtle ways. No one wants to feel like they have to apologize for things that can't be changed. The question you must ask yourself is simple. Do I want to be right, or do I want to be happy? Because sometimes letting go of resentment is not about saying that what happened was okay. It's about choosing peace over bitterness. If there is tension between you and someone you love, take the first step toward healing. Say, I don't want to hold on to this anymore. Say, our relationship matters more than whatever happened in the past. And if you can't change the past, change the way you carry it, because forgiveness is not just a gift you give to others. It is a gift you give to yourself, too. Becoming someone people look forward to being around. Think about the people in your life who you love spending time with. What is it about them that makes their presence so enjoyable? Maybe they listen without judgment. Maybe they laugh easily. Maybe they make others feel good about themselves. Now ask yourself, am I that kind of person to others? It's easy to assume that people should want to be around us simply because of love or obligation. But the truth is, people are drawn to those who bring warmth, joy, and kindness into their lives. Becoming someone that people look forward to seeing doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means being mindful of the energy you bring into a space. Smile more often. Even a simple warm expression makes people feel welcome. Share laughter. Humor is one of the greatest connectors. If you can laugh together, you can bond together. Celebrate others. Show genuine interest in their lives, their joys, their successes. People love being around those who make them feel valued, because at the end of the day, people remember how you made them feel. Make them feel loved. Make them feel accepted. make them feel at ease, and they will always come back. 3. Creating moments instead of waiting for them. One of the biggest mistakes we make as we age is waiting for someone to visit, waiting for a call, waiting for the world to come to us. But relationships do not thrive on waiting. They thrive on effort. You don't have to wait for someone to invite you. Be the one who reaches out. You don't have to sit by the phone, send the first message. You don't have to feel left out of conversations. Start one. Maybe you feel hesitant because you worry about being a burden. But here's the truth. Most people are not avoiding you on purpose. They are just busy. And a simple, warm invitation, a call, a suggestion to meet for coffee, a note that says, "I'd love to." See, you can be the nudge they need to reconnect. Loneliness is not just about who isn't reaching out. It's also about whether you're creating opportunities for connection. So take the first step. Because connection is not just something that happens, it is something you build. 4. Accepting that love looks different at every stage of life. One of the greatest struggles of aging is accepting that relationships change. Your children grow up. Your friends move away. The people who were once always around may not be there in the same way anymore. But that does not mean love has disappeared. It just means that love looks